Density is going to be a problem for both of you and your constituents, isn't it? People in suburbs don't particularly want to live in high-density areas.
Well, building on people's back gardens, as the plan suggests, is definitely not a good idea. But what London really needs is action, not words. We've had a lot of words from politicians. What we need are more homes being built. And we saw in that film a couple of examples there, the one in Enfield, for instance, where a developer, in that case Barratt Homes, was poised to build thousands of units on a brownfield site, as the Mayor of London says he wants, but they pulled out because the affordable housing target was too high and it was financially not viable. Sorry, I fully accept the need to build affordable housing, but the way you make housing affordable is to build more of it. And under Sadiq Khan, housing starts have gone down by 23% compared to Boris Johnson's last year, and even worse, housing association and council housing starts have gone down 21%.
I'm going to have to stop you on
we
that
need
one,
action,
because
not
I think
words.
what James, you wanted to interject was that that wasn't the reason for that, Barratt.
I think we need to be really clear on this, Chris. We need to be clear on a few things there. Firstly, building on gardens, as I'm sure you probably know, people are always allowed to bring forward planning applications for gardens that they own. What we're saying in the London plan is that if people bring forward those applications, we want the green to be re-provided in the development or nearby, and crucially, we want more homes to be built so that more Londoners can benefit from the development that happens. Now, I really think one of the crucial points to say here, Chris, is that you're part of a government who talks about building more housing, but the first time we met, you lobbied me to stop a development going ahead in your local area.
Because
so
it was
inappropriate. So how are we supposed to get up to?
Well, let me answer that. Let me answer that directly. Hang on. There are sites. Can I answer that? Can I answer the question?
Please do.
There are sites around London, like the one in Enfield that has fallen over on your watch, like Croydon Town Centre, like Old Oak Common. What's happening with that? Like Barking Riverside, that we should bring forward instead of inappropriate areas like the one that you referred to just then. It's a simple answer.
The one that you tried to block.
Kelly, can I just
briefly,
say?
yes.
I think Chris, talks a good game here, but what James has just alluded to is that politicians have to stand up and be counted on this issue. And, there is a tendency to say, not at the end of my road, not in my back garden. London needs more homes.
The scale of it.
If you just let me finish. If you just let me finish 1 second, Chris. I think you talk about people needing action and not words. What we need is action from government. When I first became an MP in 2010, the first act of the coalition government was to cut the National Affordable House Building Programme by 63%. Anything that Theresa May has announced in the last year or so is playing at the edges of this problem. We saw a budget where the Chancellor was pussyfooting around with saying we're going to do a review into planning permissions. We need real investment, and we need investment on a large scale. We need 5 times as much investment in genuinely affordable homes than is going in at the moment in London.
We also need some space. I'd like to bring Andrew Dennison on this. Andrew, you saw in the film there, the silver bullet would be building on the Greenbelt.
We're not short of space. There's masses of brownfield land which can be built on. One of the big challenges...
But brownfield land is not easy to build on, is it?
Well, it needs to, a key requirement is you need to be able to get to it. And one of the big challenges we face in large parts of London is poor connectivity. It's no accident that what's driving the development at Barking Riverside now is the extension of the London Overground. It spent 10 years being a desert, that site. I mean, I've been there. You go to Barking and then you have to catch a bus and it's 20 minutes. It could be half an hour in the rush hour. Of course, people won't live there if you can't get to work. Once it's 2 stops from Barking on the Overground with direct links all the way across London, which you'll get, that place will be transformed. And across the parties, we've realised that over the last 10 years. Crossrail is opening next year, the Elizabeth line. That will transform housing densities in the stations around. There are plans now which the Mayor has taken forward, which the government is supporting, for Crossrail 2, which will be the new north-south line in London. That could itself unlock 200,000 homes, most of them on brownfield sites, but which at the moment are very hard to get to.
Fine. Very quickly, James, briefly, if you will, this accusation that you are going to ruin the suburbs, that in effect this is, this whole plan is anti-suburbs.
There's an emphasis in the plan on good design, and that's whether you're building in the suburbs or in central or inner London. Right across London, we want to see well-designed, higher density housing. But we're very clear that everywhere in London needs to play its part, and that includes even places in Chris's constituency where he needs to get with the programme and start building more housing rather than blocking developments where we can get more homes for Londoners. Right, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. I know you'd like to come back in.
I certainly would, because some of that's not accurate, but I'll let it go for now.
Thank you, James. Thanks, James Murray, for joining us. Now, I'm sorry to bring it up on what is a day off for most, but picture the morning commute as you squeeze into a bus or are forced to nestle into some stranger's armpit on the train. You've probably come to an obvious conclusion. More and more people seem to be using public transport. Actually, according to the stats, you're wrong. This is all
Well, I was a bit surprised because on southern trains to Croydon and on the tubes, it still feels pretty crowded. So I was really surprised to see those figures. I think Andrew is right. The RMT strikes, I think it's 40 days of strikes on Southern, has had a crippling effect on Croydon residents and residents up and down the Brighton Main Line. That will have contributed. But I think also, to be honest, you know, Sadiq Khan promised during the mayoral election that not a single Londoner would pay a penny more in 2020. But in fact, he's put up fares, contrary to his promise, on travel cards and Oyster cards.
I'm really sorry to say we are out of time now, but with that, I'm going to have to hand back to Sarah.